we go. All right, welcome to the seventh edition of the Wolverine Whisper. We have a lot to talk about in terms of Michigan basketball from the last week. Definitely some good and some bad. Since it's fresh, the Penn State game on Tuesday night. We're gonna start off talking about that. Michigan going on the road against a Penn State team that was last in the conference, and only one win in the conference all year. And Michigan goes in there, and I don't want to say they laid an egg because Penn State did play well, and they deserved to win the game, but Michigan just wasn't, they weren't sharp, especially in the first half. Getting down 13 at halftime, giving up 40 points in the first half. Just, not acceptable Michigan basketball by their standards, especially on the defensive end of the floor. Offensively, they did shoot 51%, but they did get out rebounded by, I think, 12. So, that was a big part of the game. Just I thought the physicality and the, just backing away from that a little bit, I thought early on. And Lamar Stevens really hurt Michigan with 26 points. Even though he only shot 9, he was able to get going early and got Michigan in a lot of defensive end. He went 8 of 13 from the line as well and grabbed 12 rebounds. So, yeah, that was a disappointing loss on Beeline getting ejected. I can remember he said it's been about 40 years since he was coaching community college, since he got tossed from a game. I just thought, yeah, maybe the one technical, his assistants were there. He was kind of walking away. I don't know if that warrants an ejection, especially when you've been around that long like Beeline has. But yeah, bad officiating, but also just a bad game.
Listen, if they call that a legal screen, John Beeline's still in that game.
Right? Yeah, right. It's just he's setting the screen. It's not only a moving screen. He's running full speed and set the screen at the same time and never stopped. So it was pretty brutal. That one of several calls that were missed in the game, but nonetheless, Michigan didn't play well enough to win. Yeah. So what are your guys' takeaways from that?
Percent from the line, but they also attempted 34 free throws, which was more than Michigan attempted the entire game. Out rebounds and collected 12 offensive rebounds for the game compared to collecting just 4. And Penn State had multiple second chances after Michigan was able to get a stop. Those tend to favor Michigan. They didn't really play an awful game offensively, like you said. They shot 51%, 35% from three-point range. They did have 12 turnovers, which kill a team. So, stat-wise, it doesn't look all that bad. And then, obviously, Charles continued to show confidence and continued to play over these past 2 games. And then he was largely inefficient, especially when they matched Stevens. Stevens attacked him basically the entire first half and really dominated that matchup. Jordan scored 17 points, had a good game, but 1 for 8 from, I think he's shooting like 30% in his last 10 games from behind the arc. Something that's going to have to pick up. Michigan's going to play a subpar defense compared to what they. Penn State is not a good basketball conference. They may qualify as a quadrant 1 game. They may rank top 75 in the net ranking. But basketball team. Obviously, Michigan should have came out on top in this game. Michigan has shown that they have struggled on the road. All three of their losses are on the road. And win the Big Ten, you have to win these sort of games. And Michigan did. They paid the price.
Yeah, sort of just piggybacking off what you said, Noah. I think the free throw disparity for Michigan when Penn State shoots 34 free throws, I mean, if they hit 10 more of those, it could have been an even worse loss than it was. I mean, Michigan made it close by finally making some buckets in the second half, but it was just tough. The 3 games that they've lost, they haven't come out they just come out really slow in the first half, it seems like, on the road. And when you get a team that's going to give you their best shot, especially Penn State trying to get their second W, it's not easy to come back from when you're down 13 at halftime. I mean, Michigan's had their struggles offensively this year, but I mean, 13 points is it's a big lead for anybody in college, so.
Yeah, I thought like I said, Michigan really struggled, but there was it looked like they really had Penn State on their heels, and I think there's a stat that Penn State led like their last 6 games up to this one, so it looked like that might be the case again here, where Michigan was really making a strong push toward the end of the game, but where they had a 4, then Poole had a look at a 3 and came up short, and then Bolton hit a 3 from the corner to put it at 7. Then Poole had another open look at a 3 the next possession. Then Penn State came and got a putback layup on an offensive rebound. So at that point, it pushed it.
Those were 2 tough possessions because, I mean, you got to trust Jordan Poole taking open 3s, but it seems like you might want to wait a little bit longer to see what you can get. But, I mean, you can't fault him for taking 2 open 3s like that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they came a little quick, and I think they came out of the sets, too. The first one is a little more contested. For them haven't been really control of it. I thought Penn State's pressure really bothered him. I thought Michigan didn't do a good job, to get the ball out of his hands, to get someone to come to it, and he got trapped. Ended up with 6 turnovers in the game, which is not like him at all. I mean, by no means, Xavier Simpson's a great point guard for Michigan, and really in all aspects of the game. But you just see it goes to show when he doesn't play well or turns the ball over like that, it really messes Michigan up, within the flow of their offense. So I thought that's something going forward. I think Michigan can clean up when teams really pressure them and pressure Simpson up high and trap. Then they need to find a way out of that and be able to score. Illinois will do that, and just certain teams in the tournament. A couple going forward, be able to find ways to break that pressure. But like I said, 12 turnovers wasn't egregious, but I thought, Simpson usually controls the game. He just didn't this time, So, yeah, but other than that, like I say, I think the free throw thing, I think Penn State, like 16 or 18 of those free throws came in Michigan was, intentionally fouling. And then they had the four free throws, on the technical fouls. So 34 free throws, but is really more so like, 20.
Yeah, that's a good
18.
point.
I mean, and then Michigan nearly made a run at the end of coming back, and Penn State was missing at the line. Then Penn State or Simpson dribbled it off his knee, and then
there's the one point Jordan Poole had the
anything go their way. What's that?
There was the one point I think you were just talking about. The Jordan Poole had the open 3 after somehow he got the ball it was a near turnover by Simpson, and
Mm-hmm.
if he hits that, I
Mm-hmm.
think it was a 1-point game. So
Yeah, I mean there were multiple swings like that, in this game. Just I thought it was very strange that Ignas Brazdeikis kept getting called for fouls. On one of Poole's threes that he took, I saw him, the guy come over, basically hit him on the arm from the side. There's no call there. Like I said, there's just a lot of inconsistency in that aspect from the official. And then the blatant double dribble. We talked about this a little before the show, but when Penn State was up 8, ref looking right at the play and dribbles, picks it up, travels, dribbles again, shot clock violation, no call. It wasn't the reason Michigan lost the game, but all in all, I think the officiating the Big Ten has been pretty embarrassing this year, and the conference doesn't seem to do anything about it. But yeah, just really frustrating in all in this game. Anything you guys want to kind of add on, to that before we move on to the Wisconsin game, which is a little more good news?
I think Penn State. I've talked about Michigan making the winning plays all year, and it just seemed like Penn State was always there for the long rebound or the extra possession, obviously with 12 offensive rebounds, but it just seemed like they were always in the right place at the right time.
Teams in the Big Ten, you have to bring your best every single night, and simply put, Michigan did not do that, and Penn State took advantage to get a big.
Yeah. I think another point was John Teskey wasn't really a factor in this game. Didn't get a lot of shots. I think Penn State, their pressure really took away the pick and roll. So that was another thing that Teskey was kind of taken out of the game. And yeah, like say, there are no, like Beeline was saying after the game, like obviously he always gives a lot of credit to the opponent when they get, it says something about the conference, for one of the bottom teams to be able to compete and beat a top team, in the conference that's fighting for a conference championship. So might speak to the depth in the league there as far as that goes. But Charles Matthews came out and said after the game, that they kind of got punked by him and, that they kind of got out and all that, which is, I think, natural to say as a player, when you get beat by a team like Penn State. Both, you got to get to Penn State for pulling out and making the winning plays, like you said, Ryan, but Michigan can do some things better as well. And I think Beeline expressed that on his radio show on Wednesday night too to Matt Shepard that he has with Inside Michigan Basketball. Yeah, moving on from the Penn State game, the Wisconsin game was right. Haven't gotten hit on that a little bit. One of those, grind always is against Wisconsin. We're able to come away with a 9-point win. It was tied at halftime, and they just kind of, one of those games they had to just keep grinding it. And I thought Matthews was huge in the second half, making plays, finding his spot in that mid-range jumper. They were getting the switch with Reeves, number 35, from Wisconsin onto him, and he was just tearing him up. Coaches to keep attacking that matchup and getting him in that switch, and for him to be able to attack. And then they just missed a lot of open shots that game. I thought they played, defensively. Yeah, what do you guys think?
Sort of the opposite of the Penn State. The biggest thing that stuck out to me in this game, which was sort of the opposite of the Penn State game, was the free throws. Wisconsin, only 0 for 2 for the entire game. Michigan went 7 for 9. The refs let them play in this game, which is conducive to both of these team styles. Both teams are really physical teams, like to play a slower pace, get good open looks, and then try to make their shots that way. Both teams did that for the most part, until it came to actually making the shots, in which they were largely ineffective on both sides. Michigan, well, they shot 45% from the game, not too bad. They shot 4 for 17 on three-pointers. Wisconsin, not much better. They shot 4 for 12 and shot only 41% as a whole. Neither team turned it over, which makes sense as these are two of the best teams in terms of Wisconsin only turned it over 7 times. Michigan only turned it over 5. As you said, Seth, Charles Matthews, this is the Charles Matthews that Michigan needs to have if they're going to make a serious run throughout the rest of the season. This specifically in the second half when he scored 16 of his 18 and really carried Michigan to the victory. Now, outside of that, the biggest thing that I would say was Ethan Happ. Him score. He's still 1 assist on the game. Averages with of his from the low post to get open looks, especially from the which Michigan did a great job of defending that. They weren't able to get those open looks. Therefore, they had to work harder for each and every shot. And as the second half wore on, it got harder and harder for them to score. And that's really why Michigan was able to win this game, being at home against a top 20 opponent. Big win in terms of Big Ten play, put them in first place, and allowed them to hold first place after the Penn State blunder on Tuesday. And overall, it was just a really solid game for Michigan, really competitive game. Now, it wasn't their best game offensively, but their defense played amazing, and they pulled out a big win against a Big Ten.
Yeah, I think we saw tournament Charles Matthews last year in the tournament. He seemed to carry the team a lot of times when they would go into like a scoring drought or something like that. He seemed to really carry the team throughout the tournament and into the national championship game. And so far this season, he's been pretty hit or miss. So with 18 points, 16 coming in the second half, that was huge for him. And he carried that over into the Penn State game where it seemed like he was the only guy that could get a bucket. But one big thing that stood out to me is whatever Wisconsin is doing on Brazdakis is working because he's got 2 points in the 2 matchups. And he's our leading scorer, so it's interesting. I don't know exactly what they were doing to neutralize him or if he's just, I mean, he was 1 of 9, so he was just missing shots. But
yeah, I know the first game it seemed like they shut him down, like he didn't get looks. But he got looks in this game, I thought. So, I mean, I don't know if it was in his head or it's just like a coincidental, thing with Wisconsin, but it's weird.
Yeah, because he's been a very consistent scorer, and you just hope that, these games are, 20 games in, so you just hope he's not hitting a freshman wall where he's getting tired and, his production's going to go down for the rest of the year, but I think he played pretty well in the Penn State game, got some buckets, but I think that was a big thing, and Teskey won the matchup against Happ. So,
good win for Michigan against Wisconsin. Obviously the Penn State game kind of, made that, I don't want to say irrelevant because Michigan is still first place in the Big Ten and in a good spot to win the conference, even with the tough schedule. But, they're just going to have to bounce back on Saturday against Maryland. Maryland comes in off a big win against Purdue. They're right in the thick of the conference race as well. Getting a solid win against a Purdue team that, came in playing really good basketball. So, Maryland creates a lot of challenges for Michigan, I think, especially in the front court. Bruno Fernando, who is a projected top 10 pick in the draft, really having a good year, averaging a double-double in the game and 11 rebounds. As well as Jalen Smith at forward, averaging 12 and 7 as well. And then obviously Anthony Cowan their leading scorer at the guard at a 16 a game. So, and if he's making shots, it really changes their whole offense. So, I think it'll be big for Michigan's guards to play well in this game and really outplay Maryland's guards, because I think Maryland has the advantage in the front court. But it'll be a home game for Michigan. They'll be in the comfort of Crisler, where they're on a big winning streak. I think it's the winning streaks in the 20s there. So in front of the home crowd again, so that'll be nice. Like I say, Maryland creates a lot of challenges, but hopefully Michigan will be able to pull out the win there. What do you guys see as the biggest challenges coming into that game for Michigan? Do you see them bouncing?
Well, so it's another sellout crowd at Crisler. Michigan has won, like you said, home game after home game after home game. Haven't lost at home yet this season. Seem to play a lot better at home than they do on the road, clearly. They have wins at home over North Carolina and Purdue. Maryland certainly on Purdue's level. I don't know if they're quite to North Carolina. So it's definitely a doable win. I personally think that Michigan will win this game. I do not see them losing 2 in a row. I do not see them team. They are at home. They are fighting for a conference title. I think they will win this game. If Charles Matthews can thing that makes me most hesitant in this game would be Maryland's front court on offense with John Teske defending them. John Teske defensively has not been great these past 2 games. Happ and Stevens, and obviously Fernando's an amazing player. Jalen Smith is a potential lottery pick in this upcoming draft. But another big thing for Michigan, Xavier Simpson versus Anthony Cowan. Cowan is a lights-out scorer. He can get his own shot. He's only shooting 40% this season, so he's been pretty inconsistent. His assist-to-turnover ratio is not great either, 4.5 to 3. So he's struggled with efficiency, but he still managed to be the leading scorer, leads the team in assists, the real catalyst for the team. When he goes, they go, and it really helps out, ease the load on Fernando and Smith. But overall, this is going to be a great game. These are 2 really good teams. Both teams have potential to make runs in the tournament. Simply, Michigan is at home. They've played great at home. And I think that Michigan gets it done. In a close one, probably like some game at the end, but I think Michigan improves 23-3 on the season.
Is it too early to call this a must-win?
You want to win the Big Ten? It might be. I think it's a must-win game if you want to win the Big Ten with Purdue's schedule. At home, especially when you got to go to Maryland and Michigan State. I think in terms of the Big Ten race, it is.
Yeah,
I wouldn't call it a must-win. I'd call it it's a very important game. It'd be a very big deal if they won the game, but I don't think the season comes unraveling and all hopes are lost of winning the Big Ten if they lose this game. They obviously still have the 2 games against Michigan State down the stretch, and obviously Purdue has a goal the rest of the way, but I think it's a little early to call it a must-win.
I think if they lose this game, then they have to beat Michigan State twice, and I don't think that's going to be easy for them. I think they'll end up splitting with Michigan State. They'll probably win at home and lose at Breslin, but I think you got to win this game, put some separation between you and, depending on what Michigan State does, keep pace with them this week. So I think that'll be a big storyline. You got to win, and it'll be another top 25 win for Michigan, just padding the resume and as they get closer and closer to the tournament here. I haven't watched much of Maryland, so I can't really comment with much
I don't know, accuracy on what they've done. So I'll leave that up to you guys, which you guys just seemed like got that under wraps. So
Yeah, I mean, I think with Michigan in these games, they really show up, especially on their home floor. They are 5-0 against ranked teams this year. Teams that were actually ranked when they played them. So yeah, I do think they generally show up in these type of games, and they've just always kind of been that way, especially late in the season and in a Big Ten race. And after losses like you referenced the Penn State loss in 2013, and obviously when they went to the national championship, they lost that game at Penn State and then came right back and beat Michigan State at home, and Michigan State was in the top 10, I believe, as well. So, I mean, yeah, it's just kind of been the MO of John Beilein's teams throughout his tenure. I thought this is really interesting as well. Kind of trailing away from the Maryland game a little bit. But I saw that the 2 years Michigan has gone to the Final Four under Beeline, they've been exactly 500 on the road in those seasons. And this year is kind of trending that direction as well. So I thought that was really interesting. Maybe not so good on the road, great at home, great on neutral courts as well, neutral sites. But it's not. I don't think it's a big deal that they've struggled on the road because as long as they bounce back, I think they'll be fine going forward. But as far as the Maryland game goes, I've got about I'm going to say 77-71 Michigan coming out on top in a close game and kind of pulling away at the end. Did you make a prediction, Noah?
I said that they'll probably win by like 7 or 8. I'll say probably around 80-72 is my prediction.
I'll take Michigan. Let's go. I think 71-65. I'll take Michigan.
All right. Yeah. So hopefully Michigan will be able to bounce back against Maryland and be able to, further, like I said, Ryan, I think I'm leaning with you a little bit on that one, that this is, really, really important game in terms of the Big Ten regular season. I don't think it's a huge deal. Like, personally, it doesn't matter to me that much if they do win their regular season. Like, it's nice. But, you still always have the Big Ten tournament, that they've won the last 2 years. So they kind of have that, the banners hanging up at Crisler there in terms of a, look back type of thing, win championships. And then obviously the NCAA tournament is the big one. So, yeah, but we'll, like I said, it's nice to have it, and it'll be interesting down the stretch as far as that race is concerned. So yeah, that'll kind of wrap it up talking about Michigan basketball. Hope you guys tune in next week. Happy Valentine's Day to everyone out there. Noah here likes the candy hearts. I can't really justify that.
Best Valentine's Day candy.
I'll give him one chance to defend why candy hearts are good. What's your explanation on that one, Noah?
What is not to like about candy hearts? They give you nice messages that make you feel nice and warm on the inside, and then
so it's the emotional aspect for you.
Yeah, that's a very important part. Food is great.
It's like you're eating a piece of chalk.
No.
Pretty much chalk with sugar. That's about it. The texture is just so weird.
No, delicious.
Why can't you just go with like the standard, like Reese's, or just like, I don't know, just kind of
go and get yourself a Russell Stover's heart.